Wow, you guys. I was just watching David Pakman. He's a very popular liberal YouTuber with a huge following, almost as big as Joe as Mycelis. What was his first name? I've forgotten his first name. Mycelis and Pakman. They're both very popular YouTubers, and so I was just watching him tear into this guy, Joe Scarborough, who is co-host of Morning Joe. And as it turns out, Joe Scarborough has often been accused of hypocrisy. I had no idea. I mean, I've seen his show from time to time, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm a regular. I haven't really followed politics in years and years and years, on purpose, but things have sort of shifted very suddenly, and I'm like, oh my God, wake up and smell the coffee. And so I started listening to people like David Pakman, and so he's saying that Joe Scarborough, he's like appalled by what I think is he views as hypocrisy, and apparently Joe Scarborough has been accused of hypocrisy before, and so the recent shift towards Donald Trump is really just another example of that, right? So for years, Scarborough and his co-host, who I think is his wife, Mika Brzezinski. I'm sorry if I'm not saying that correctly. They position themselves as sharp critics of Trump, and the few shows I did see, they were critics of Trump, right? And so during the early days of Trump's first presidency, they lambasted Trump like all the time for his divisive rhetoric and his authoritarian tendencies. And they presented themselves, to my view anyway, as, champions of reason and of democracy, They were like custodians of reason and democracy. And so their critiques, I think they were formerly Republicans. Do correct me if I'm wrong. But then once they started to turn on Trump, their critiques started to align them with liberal pundits and pro-Democrat camp, and pro-Biden. I don't know what they were saying about Kamala Harris because I wasn't really listening. I didn't wake up until Joe Biden selected Kamala Harris, at which point I said, holy bleeping bleep, we're done. Trump wins in a landslide. And you can go back to my podcast where I literally said that because that's when I woke up. I'm like, what did Joe Biden just do? It's over, right? There's so much at stake and you do this, it's done, right? So that's when I started to pay attention again, right? Because in my wildest dreams, I never thought that Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris could do something like this, right? All three of them to me are equally responsible for this, right? I couldn't believe it, right? So that's when I woke up. I was like, what? What? Right? I was like this. Go back and you listen. I mean, I was the only one, no one, not even this guy, Pakman, none of them were saying it out loud. I said it out loud because A, I'm not a pundit. B, I'm not an expert. C, nobody listens to me anyway, right? So I was just really honest. Let me go back and you will hear exactly what I said. And then I said, talk to me on November 6th, because that's the day that I knew it's on, right? And as I said, I sit up all night, November 5th into the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, November 6th, Paris time. We're done, right? We're cooked. We're toast, you guys. Anyway, I digress. So, I mean, and I don't hate Trump, and I want to say that. I want to underscore that very, very well. I have nothing against Trump. He fascinates me. He amuses me. I mean, look, okay? But I didn't want him to be president because I felt like the stakes were too high and it was not in my favor. It wasn't in the favor of people like me. I just knew that, right? I just knew we were going to be screwed, for lack of a better word. And I also knew that he was going to get his revenge on a lot of people. And the stress was too much. Even though, look, it's not going to be boring. Trump is never boring. He delivers. He's a Gemini. I like Gemini men as a general rule, right? But endlessly fascinating, endlessly entertaining, right? But president, no, I didn't want this, right? But now he's president. I'm not going to have a conniption because I told y'all, don't do this. This is stupid what you're doing. Kamala Harris can't win. I said this in so many words, right? And it's not because, I'm anti-Black women. I'm a Black woman myself. I'm not saying she's not qualified. I know that she's qualified, but this is not the test. This is not the year for this candidate. Put her up in 4 years when Trump has been stopped forever and he can't run again because he's too old, right? Put a man against Trump. And I'm going to say, yes, you don't want to talk about identity politics and gender politics. This election required a white male against this man, right? There you have it. I said it, right? But nobody wants to say that out loud. You certainly don't put someone like Kamala Harris up against this particular candidate at this particular time in the history of the United States. You just don't do it. I mean, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist, you guys. But anyway, I digress. So we're talking about JOE Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski. I'm not even sure. It's just say Mika, right? So, so the critics, the critiques often align them with the pro-Biden camp, and so people had the impression that they had broken definitively with the Republican Party, and with their early support of Trump during his 2016 campaign. However, it was lately revealed by Scarborough and Mika themselves that they went down to Mar-a-Lago. They visited Mar-a-Lago, I think, this week to see Trump and to speak with Trump directly. And this, coupled with their softer rhetoric towards Trump, for people like David Pakman, it suggests an opportunistic about face that just reeks of hypocrisy. And so he's been tearing into them, as have other pundits, right? Because what people are saying is that what Mika and Joe did undermines their credibility as journalists and as commentators, right? And as David Pakman put it, he said they went down to kiss the ring, right? Now, and he's basically saying that, by doing that, it highlights, that the fact that this is just political posturing. It's not at all about authentic journalism. It's about posturing, right? And by doing this and aligning themselves with Trump, even if it's just temporary, just 4 years, it's like give us a break. We have a business to run over here. Morning Joe, we need ratings, right? We need content. It's just 4 years. I mean, even though it's temporary, with Trump, after years of criticizing Trump, even if it's temporary, I think what Pakman is saying is that Joe and Mika seem like they're prioritizing access and their self-interest over principle. And I don't know if I disagree with that. I think I might have to disagree with that. Now, Scarborough's claim that he is receiving support from all over the world, from all these countries, people are calling him left, right, and center to support him and tell him what a wonderful thing he did, according to David Pakman, is really hollow. And, maybe I agree. Maybe I agree, right? Pakman, it's like he's saying that what Joe is doing is he's trying to deflect criticism rather than address the legitimate concerns about his about face and his shifting allegiances, and his sudden change of mind, like what? Like it's like a whole brand redo, It's like me going from Cruising Paris to Marion's Chronicles like in 2 seconds. But I can do that because, I barely have an audience. I mean, these people have millions of people who look to them and are believing what they're saying, and it's like they just shift like this. It's like what, right? So David Pakman suggests that Joe Scarborough's actions are hypocritical, because they betray the critical stance he once adopted against Trump and call into question whether Joe's opposition to Trump in the first place was ever rooted in genuine concern for the country and so on and so forth, or was it merely performative, right? Just a performance that was tailored to the prevailing political winds, And I mean, again, I think I have to concur, at least in part, with that, right? Now, does it matter that Scarborough is a hypocrite? Well, most people are hypocrites. I mean, I'm just gonna be just blunt about it. I do think most people are hypocrites. I mean, ironically, one of the few people, certainly one of the few politicians that I don't think is a hypocrite is Donald Trump. Trump tells you exactly who he is. He doesn't pretend. He tells you exactly what he's going to do, and for the most part, he follows through on it, right? So you can at least prepare, even if you can't protect yourself from it, you can be forewarned. Whereas you have some other people, they pretend to be nice, they pretend to be all kinds of things, and in the end they're actually not that much better than Trump. I hate to say it, but this is my opinion, right? However, that all said, it still matters that Joe Scarborough is a hypocrite and people like him are hypocrites because they shape public opinion in a way that most of us don't and can't. I can't shape public opinion. I'm a nobody from nowhere, right? Nobody listens to me, right? But people like Joe Scarborough, they have influence, right? So their hypocrisy matters, right? And when they flip flop, it just fosters cynicism and mistrust in and with the media, right? And for the media. It's just like, even though I don't know who really trusts the media anymore, I still just feel like, you listen to these people and then they just like flip on you, right? Scarborough's actions reinforce the perception that some people in the media prioritize their relevance or their influence and their relationships and their proximity to power over holding power accountable, right? Um, and yeah, I think that's really what it is that it just seems like Scarborough realizes it's a Trump show now. I mean, it's just Trump's show. So let me get in on it. Let me go kiss the ring. Let me lick the boots, whatever I have to do to be close. Let me promise that I'm going to be nice. So now, can we really trust what opinions he spews or not is really the question. Look, I mean, who would say no to an invite to Mar-a-Lago? I mean, I wouldn't say no. I'd be like, what? How fast can I get there? But again, I never professed to hate Trump. I never professed anything at all. I have no influence. People like this guy, Joe Scarborough, he has influence and he has relevance, right? And it matters whether he can be trusted or not. Now, if he wants to rebuild his credibility, I think that, and I think David Pakman would agree that Scarborough and Mika will have to explain their apparent change of heart and clarify whether their critiques of Trump over these years were sincere or were they just a convenient narrative they sort of like spewed to suit a particular political moment, right? Just for the moment, just for now, because we need ratings, we need to make money, right? Until he does that, I think critics like David Pakman are justified, frankly, in questioning Joe and Mika's integrity. And no offense to Trump, like I said, because you know, it's not even about that. He never lied to anybody. He never pretended, right? Um, he said some things about Mika, I remember. I don't remember what he said. Did she ever have No, I'm not gonna say that. Anyway, listen, you guys, that's all for this one. See you in the next one. Do subscribe, please support the channel. See you in the next one. Take care. Bye.